Knowing your strengths can be a weakness, and knowing your weaknesses can be a strength. This is supplemental material, part of the Know Thyself. It's pretty simple. If you are too focused on all the things you can do, you may not be looking out for the things you should be looking out for. You may fail. Get a cramp patting yourself on the back. It's okay to know your strengths, but it's like resting on your laurels kind of thing. And likewise, it can be a weakness to obsess over your weaknesses, but knowing your weaknesses gives you things to work on, things to improve. Everyone's capable of some type of improvement. Part of this is you will come to a realization at some point on how to actually be the change you want to see. It does some good if like one person does it, but if a bunch of people do it, and these people have become inwardly self-aware and are, with any type of moral fiber, then the world would change even faster. That's why. If you're asking why about any of this, that's why. This is not a short trip. It's a worthwhile trip. It's a good journey, but it is not short. Can't expect things to just be there. All these franchises and hero archetypes that were shown in the media are rapidly granted great power. Just, it indulges a fantasy. That's why it's fiction. True stories are not like that. True stories are the ones that worked hard, did something for a long time and got really good at it, had a passion and followed it. They're not always the biggest gross at the box office, though. They're not always the best of the best sellers. But as the Buddha said, the journey is more important than the destination. Since we are dealing in enlightenment, things like that are very valid, very true. So there was a lovely comment on the Know Thyself video, a fairly lengthy duration, were it to be read out loud. Very good points. And as mentioned in that comment, you reach a point where you're not blaming the world or others for the things that you remember having done that definitely led to a consequence that you did not like, or whatever. The ability to discern that kind of cause and effect really just comes down to understanding logic to some degree. Doesn't mean you have to be all logic all the time. That one's a rough one to live, let me tell you. But karma is just the consequences of your own actions. That's it. It's neither good nor bad. Karma just is. It is the flow of outcomes, of probability. That is consequences. It is choices. And it is natural consequence that cause A has effect A. That may then cause B to have effect B. And when you are past the fifth step and you understand your instructions, you may have the ability through the course of attaining or discovering those instructions to experience a sensation not unlike the eighth dimensional observer upon at least one universe. And if you're able to kind of remember that, hang on to it, maybe write it down while you're there, then you may gain further use of that faculty at a later point when you return to it. I think the last thing for this addendum video is that the best method I found, there were two things that really worked for the ability to really dig in on the inner work, to something to feel like there actually is like a command prompt. In the past, okay, so three. In the past, I have used self-hypnosis. We're talking about when I was like 13, 14 years old. Self-hypnosis can be very helpful. It can be used as a meditative tool, and inner work is very doable in this way. So I was accessing something like self-hypnosis while practicing Zazen meditation, which is the tongue on the roof of the mouth, breathing in and out through the nose, using the diaphragm, not the chest, as the focal point of the breathing motion, and sitting in some type of half lotus, usually preferably with the hips slightly raised. Neutral hand position, resting on itself in ways that you can kind of tune out sensation and go inward. And of course, I would also meditate with half eyes, so it would be about like that. Not actually closed, not actually open, don't really need to blink. I've practiced candle meditation in this way, and I've also used, this was at the time, I'm dating myself, showing my age, Windows Media Player had some nice G-force effects you could use as a visualizer, and some pretty cool sacred geometrical designs were available on there, especially I found when listening to Tool. But basically practicing Zazen meditation, sometimes with auditory assistance. Be very careful what you choose. And sometimes doing that while also having a word processor in front of me so that I could type the thoughts that were passing through my mind during that time in the process of emptying it out. I also developed a tulpa at that time through this process, so be advised. If you are capable of generating one, you may find yourself with one. It's also interesting because of what that is and how that works, but I won't get into that. Mine is currently not in place, not in effect. It is at rest. So looking at those 5 steps, the process is really about inward understanding. Truly, not just on some superficial level or virtual thought. This takes a long time, but from time to time, you may find yourself where you've got a little extra time and you can close your eyes or sit in a quiet room or put some headphones on or something and get into that space and work inwardly at knowing yourself while being true to yourself about what you're seeing because of what you're doing. The purpose is getting in there, knowing everything, your quirks, your failures, your successes. This is like the precursor to ego death as well. That you can go through and take an honest, blunt look at everything about yourself, like the stuff that keeps you up at night that people talk about, the meme, the trope, the joke, but for real. And with enough time, this long, dark night of the soul leads to a lot of personal growth, a lot of inner healing of things you didn't even realize were traumatized, because that's how it works with people. Things happen to you when you're a kid and you don't remember. Sometimes you black stuff out. Sometimes something that you thought was nothing as an adult turns out as an adolescent or a child was actually a big deal. Know thyself. That's what that means. It doesn't just mean take your ego out of the equation. It doesn't work like that. You can't do that. You tell it to do that, it ain't going to do that. And that's why people are like, oh, see, it doesn't work. That's not how it works. How it works is you do something like Zazen meditation for a very long period of time, over time. Emptying your mind or focusing on the particulars of what is coming through and using it as a means for inner work. By doing so, like say with typing, you can actually have some communication amongst the inner parts of yourself without becoming a full-blown schizophrenic. You just have to kind of mind what is being written, identify what aspect is writing what. But really, you can kind of get a second opinion sometimes. You write it, you reread it, you think about it, you write an answer to it. You're AIing yourself. And in doing this, things come out that you can then take note of. Ways to... Kept going down. Ways to find things you didn't realize you could improve. And with time and enough of this, you gain significantly. Now then the other thing is, all the people around you, if they're not also going through it at the same time with you, are not necessarily going to recognize it for a long time. So, I will conclude this addendum to the Know Thyself video